Hello. Hello, everyone. And welcome to Satsang. An hour earlier. And hope you all got my email specifying that it would be an hour earlier, which means it's the same time for the folks in Europe as it was last week, which is many people. And I think I'm going to leave it at this time because when I myself move to Europe, it'll be like 8 o'clock at night. So that's late enough to start satsang. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome once again to a time to ponder your own true nature, to come to the most spiritual insights about yourself, and thus insights about the whole world. There's a lot of people that talk to me about wanting to help the world, wanting to make the world a better place. And it's such a wonderful sentiment because we all know something's up. Something is terribly off. This is not the way it's supposed to be going, considering all the knowledge we have, all of the opportunity for connection that we have, the technology that we have available to us. We could be living in a utopia, but we're not. Exactly the opposite. And we can't really blame coronavirus. All that did was point out how utterly inefficient and unstable the whole culture and society we've built actually is. One of the areas that I wanted to talk about today that has just become an area of urgency for me is the relationship between the genders. So I called this the woman-man continuum, and I wanted to address this subject because it's a symptom of how out of balance and out of the natural flow of life that we've actually become. We've gotten to this place where half of humanity is regarded as less than, is regarded as second class, is either reduced to a servant or a broodmare or a commodity, an object to be sold on the marketplace. And I don't know how you can possibly do that and expect to have a healthy, flowing society of any kind when you diminish the most important critters on the planet for human being, which is the woman, the feminine principle. Traditionally, up to the time of where human beings started into the world of agriculture, which was the creation of city-states and specializations and different kinds of hierarchy and government and property ownership. Prior to that, the woman was regarded with the utmost honor and respect, simply because the female is life. Not only does it give birth, but it nourishes that life for several years until it is capable of being nurtured in other ways, or nourished in other ways, food from different sources, at which point dad has a function, right? Up to that, dad's only job is protect, because he can't do anything about the young child. That's completely on the hands of the woman. And the most earliest figurines that represent objects of worship in history are objects, they're figurines crudely cut of the female, celebrating life and this mystery of life giving birth to life. Well, with the advent of agriculture, the power began to shift, and because of the city-states, people weren't hunting and gathering anymore. They were moving into these cities. There was specialization. There was a different kind of organization. Little bit by little, it became increasingly patriarchal. men kind of grabbed all the control and started to demean women to the point where in the Abrahamic religions, women are completely secondary. In fact, they're fallen. It was woman's fault that we're in the state that we are. And Yahweh, which is a warrior God, is the only God in any culture that does not have a partner, that does not have a mate. You can see exactly how intensely patriarchal it is, to the point of a total distortion of life. So Yahweh becomes the creator. I mean, think about it. It's absurd. The male starts to be a creation. And what happens in that is that the sense of creator and created get a schism between them. There's a separation. There's a distance. And at this point, there's not a relationship of love. It becomes transactional, right? It becomes, well, you obey the law and you'll get the reward. So this law was the rules by which you had to engage with this ultimate creator. Now, if you look in other traditions, most notably the Hindu, the feminine principle is what gives birth even to the gods. They looked at the universe not as a concentric crystal spheres, the way the more primitive people did. They saw the vastness of the universe, and they saw everything within the universe. And to them, that was obviously the feminine principle, life within the female. And they have many different statues of and gods and goddesses that represent that. But even the gods and goddesses were produced by the great mystery, which is feminine. So in that model, you have creation and the creator as one. The creator is immanent within it. It's not even creation in the sense that we normally think about it in the West. And so you can see exactly how destructive it is when the creator and the creation become separated. And from there you get all the rules, you get all the judgment, you get the wrath, you get the jealousy, you get the petty, all the worst aspects of human being projected on a being that was supposed to be governing all things, and the most powerful being in the universe. Of course, to them, the universe was just a few layers, right? There was Earth, and then there was the realm of like stars and stuff, and then there was angels, and then God. That was it. And when they were building the Tower of Babel, they were trying to reach heaven. They really thought they were going to reach heaven, right? And the way it reads is that God didn't want them to reach heaven, as if that is where he was. And he didn't want them to get there. So he confounded the language, so they got all confused. It's really very funny when you think about it, because it's written from the idea that in fact they could, if they built high enough, right? That they could have gotten there. And so God didn't like them getting so close. And so he confounded their language, hence we get the Babel fish. So what happened is the natural flow between the opposites, between the energy of the masculine and the feminine, got cut off. The feminine got relegated to secondary. The masculine got prominent, and from there it became, honor was war, and conquest, and to whoever had the most might won. It came about, zero-sum games. It became about me rather than we, and men got completely cut off from their higher purpose, which is the service of humanity, to serve something greater than themselves. And if you look around, those that are running the world are only serving themselves. They want to convince some 18-year-old to go off and kill or be killed for them, as if it's some noble service, serving something higher than himself. But it's simply them. These are all false kings. These are all, mythologically speaking, these are the Herods. These are the Scars. These are the Prince Johns. They don't belong in that role. So how do we find that balance? I have to say, over the last, over all the years that I have been teaching and doing private sessions and group sessions with people, I have just been shocked time and time again about the sheer amount of abuse that we experienced in our childhoods. That it's now coming to the surface, but for the longest time it was going on and was just completely buried. The things, particularly both genders experienced it, but it was even more intense for women. And just the last probably month or so, I just can't describe the horror stories that I've heard from people coming to me for help of the things that had happened to them, and doing what I do in order to kind of to heal the trauma and liberate the whole body from the position that it's in. And there's plenty of people who can testify that it actually works. But what's stunning to me is the sheer volume of it. That this kind of out of balance relationship has created an extraordinarily sick and distorted world, society. And we need to do this, to solve this in two different ways. Number one, women have to become empowered. And at this point within our culture, nobody's going to give it to you. You're going to have to take it. Of course, that's part of the power. You're going to have to become self-validating. You're going to have to say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no. This is the only way. It will force men into the corner. On the other side, men have to discover what their true purpose is. Joseph Campbell put it so beautifully, and I've quoted this a whole bunch of times. He said, women are life, men are the protectors of life. The primary role of a man is protection. And at this point, life, we're talking about the entire earth, because we are on the verge of a point of no return, where we're just going to send it into chaos and life may continue. The earth has a long time. It's got time on its side, but it won't look like anything we know now. The entire earth and its environments, all peoples everywhere, all children, they're all our children. And when I see multi-billionaires that are really boys in men's bodies, devoting billions of dollars so that they can go to space and show everybody how cool they are, it just, I'm disgusted. Right? The amount of money those three guys spent on their little trip could basically have set up most of Africa completely self-sustaining for the rest of time. Now, wouldn't that have been a true accomplishment? Wouldn't that be something worth building statues to? Wouldn't that be an example of what real manhood is? Not flaunting your wealth on a joyride, the world's most expensive midlife crisis. It disgusts me. It makes me sad. And it shows me the current state. These guys are idealized. Elon Musk has got a cult following, for Christ's sake. They're idealized. This is the example. The billionaire, as if they did everything themselves. They never had anybody help from anybody else. The culture didn't do anything for them. The people didn't do anything for them. But you can see this is where we've gotten to. And so men have to rediscover what their real power is, right? What their real authority is, what their real purpose is, and it is to protect. So anyway, I'm doing some classes on those coming up. I'm doing a class for women, exclusively for women, on Thursday. I may even have it in there right now. Yes, it is right there. gpwalsh.com/woman. Where I'll be talking about kind of the archetypes of it, the inner energy that gives rise to that power. And then a week after that, I'm going to be doing one for men. Can't register for that yet because I don't have everything set up, but you can register now for the women's one. And early bird price is until midnight tonight. And in addition to the workshop with myself and Nothing But Women, there'll be a second one that is going to be conducted by one of my students. It's all going to be movement and meditation and ritual just for women, and she's a woman, and I'm not even going to be there because these rituals and exercises she does are not. She's very traditional, and they're not to be done with men at all, and they're not to be recorded. They have to be done live. Let me get something on my shirt. Word. Um, so all of that is part of this package. So by all means, join me. There's still plenty of room, and the price is cheaper today. So I just wanted to talk about that because it's really I have a sense of urgency about it now that I didn't before. And I've worked with men on men's issues. I've been through male initiation rituals myself. I've spent a lot of time with a men's group, learning what it meant to be truly supportive to each other. And but in this day, I'm just hearing so many things of late from women asking me to teach about this and asking me what happened to the men. Well, they're not men; they're boys in men's bodies, and that's what happened. So I'm doing my best to try to correct this in some small way, and attempt to kind of reestablish the flow. Because if we reestablish the flow, believe me, you don't have to worry about the world. We will find the way to set everything right in the world and make it orders of magnitude better within a year. We have everything we need except the will to do it. So on that note, I will just take this off the screen and go back to see everybody here. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Everyone, especially if you're new, say hello, tell me where you're listening from and that you are new, because that's always very helpful. For me, I love to see the new people who are arriving. And please like and share because it helps. And I woke up this morning with a bit of a head cold, so I don't know how long my voice is going to hold out. So I'll do my best. Rosario, there's Georgia in London. Good evening and all. There's Robbie in Romania. There's Bob. Love, respect, and gratitude for GP, encouraging us to find our true power. Yes, yes, and the power of women. And Bob is just a name we gave her because I couldn't pronounce her actual name because she's from Serbia. The power of women is simply this strength that won't be moved. Right? It says yes when it means yes and no when it means no. It's the capacity to know what is true and be unmoving in it. That's the true power of women. And you'll notice how women are, especially by men, they get gaslit, they get degraded. Well, what do you know? Used to be that bluntly would say you're just a woman, but now, oh yeah, you just have that. You don't have enough education, have enough money. You're just a mother, right? All sorts of demeaning things to gaslight you, to take away your power, to say that you don't have any authority. Well, you do. You have an enormous amount of authority, and historically speaking, the majority of the people who were executed or burned at the stake as witches were women because they were powerful. That's why. Accused of being witches. The fact was they were simply powerful. They weren't buying it, right? And as a result, they had to be made an example of. So that the power of woman is not the same as the power of man. The power of men is what we see: hierarchical, organizational, very much of this moment. What's the next third quarter prophets? What are they going to be? The power of women is generations, legacy, a knowledge of that which is true now and which always will be. That's inherent in the feminine psyche. That is what needs to be discovered. and reawakened to the point where you can't be gaslit anymore. Hi there, Liza. Eastern Standard, yes. Back to Standard Time, which means it's going to get dark early. Hello, Jay. Good to see you. Ursula, Madeira Island. Jerry's Jubran. Hi, everyone. Hello to you. I think you're new. I don't recognize the name. There's Hendrik in Germany. There's Mindful Zero. Hello, Sean. Good to see you. Barbara in Sweden. Ava in Poland. So good to be here. David Elaine in Southeast England. And Sue McIntosh. My 20-year-old son told me about people who have no inner voice. I used this to lead him to self-inquiry. He was very open and understood what I was saying. I see this as by grace that he has realized. Oh, how beautiful. How beautiful. And I like the way you put it. I use this to lead him to self-inquiry. He was very open and understood what I was saying. Yeah, it means you did it right. You led him, right? It's an invitation for self-exploration. It's very open, understood what I was saying. He acknowledged what was saying was right, not just because you're saying it, not an external authority, but his internal authority recognized the truth of it. And as a result, I'm sure he will awaken the right kind of inner voice, the kind of inner voice that is just simply knows what's true and follows it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Sue. See this by grace. Yes, it's all by grace. It is all by grace. No one can take credit for this. Who can take credit for a tree? Who can take credit for the fact that you are self-aware? Where did that come from? The sense of your own being, your sense of your existence. Nobody told you that. That sense I am, nobody gave that to you. It's just there. That's grace. It's just there. You didn't earn it. You didn't pay for it. You didn't have to do anything special for it. You didn't have to pass any tests. It's just there. It's what you are. Pure grace. Thank you, Sue. Hello, Mary. Good to see you. Milo. Hello, GP. Can you talk a little bit about conscious business and earning money? Thanks. I'd love to. I would love to. Conscious business is becoming a bit of a buzzword, almost cliche, but not quite. I don't think it's. I don't think we have to lose it to the realm of cliche yet, because it's actually what needs to take place. The word business itself needs to be reclaimed, because all it means is, two people agreeing on something for mutual benefit, right? There's a deal, right? And there's an area of society where business is appropriate. The thing that's happened in our modern world is that neoliberalism took the position that business and the market is the only way, right? Therefore, there should be no taxes, there should be no regulation. Nobody should tell me I can't dump my crap into the river and pollute it. Nobody can tell me I can't take all the resources out of the ground. Nobody's allowed to tell me. The market is it. And so business has become associated with, IBM and Exxon and Monsanto and all these, really just, these are simply the facilitators of enormous greed and insanity. So you've been taking back the word business to simply mean people exchanging their goods and the services for each other's benefit, right? Now, the very fact that I use that definition is a conscious definition. I'm defining it within a larger context, right? So conscious business simply means you are aware of the whole, it's holistic. You're aware of the whole picture, right? If you're taking something out of the ground, you realize that there could be a deficiency, right? Whereas, the current business model is efficient means I get it as cheaply as possible. And if I exhaust this source, well, I'll just go find another one, assuming there'll always be another one, right? So a conscious business goes, well, but if I take it out of the ground, how is it going to replenish? So you look at the entire scope of things, and when I make a product, what's going to happen when it's no longer of use? Right? When it doesn't function anymore, it happens to the old cars, the old tires, all of that. Notice that was never thought about. It just got dumped somewhere, landfills, and well, we're filling up all the land, right? The amount of garbage is just reached epic proportions, right? So business as it's defined now, right, purely by the market and by value, efficiency is how cheap for me to get it. And I don't think at all about my waste or what happens to the product afterwards. Conscious means I look at the whole thing. I see the entire thing is interrelated. I cannot separate one thing from another. And so I'm looking for replenishable resources. We should be using hemp and not trees, period, or bamboo and not trees, period. There's no reason why not. The only reason is that would mean that it would cost money and people's profits would be hurt, right, to make that conversion. And so they instead pretend there's no problem. Which is kind of the Bart Simpson approach. It's like that when I got here. So what we're experiencing is, on every level of human consciousness, there is a conflict between the conscious and the unconscious. Right? The unconscious being that which simply wants to focus on the most narrow thing because its parameters are simply what makes me the most money. Right? I got to get this as cheap as possible. I produce it as cheaply as possible. I sell it for the most I possibly can. And once it leaves here, it's not my problem. Right? And of course it's a problem of humanity as a whole. And the real role of a government is to make sure that the whole is taken care of. Right? But in our current climate of neoliberalism, hold on one second. There we go. In our current climate, that's supposed to be the only determinant. Governments they're not supposed to exist. They don't want any kind of organizing that would tell them they can't do whatever they damn well please. So conscious business is, I'm aware of what I'm doing. I'm making a product not just to make money. I'm not just seeing what do people want or trying to manufacture their desires, which is the whole advertising industry is, and marketing for that matter. I'm not trying to manufacture. I'm looking, what do people really need? What do we really need? And then I provide in the most sane, the most efficient, the most cost effective. And you could see that eventually we could have a system that can do that without the exchange of money, without a marketplace, right? There are other ways in which we can organize once business is conscious. Once we realize that we are in the business of helping humanity, of meeting the needs of humanity within the context of the whole. That we can't just meet the needs of humanity and ignore the trillions of other critters that live on the planet, nor can we ignore the planet itself, which is infinitely replenishable if you don't overextend it. If you overextend it, you wipe it out. Everything is like that. Every system can be stressed to the max. So in our current system, the step for businesses becoming conscious is just, what is it that I'm giving? What do I think? What do people really need? Right? Not what I think they want, right? Because people's wants and needs are completely different. And these days, everything is being driven by increasingly distorted wants. And when I say want, I don't just mean, shelter, food, that sort of thing. Because there's more to human beings than that. We need development and evolution. We need creativity. We need opportunity. All of those things are part of it. And at this point, it has to be done in such a way that we earn money for it, right? Because that's the system we're under. So if I can do a conscious business and earn money, I'm creating a model by which that could be scaled, right? That everybody is concerned about the whole and not just the part. Even using our current economic model, which is money, which is actually a brilliant invention, right? I mean, it's great. I don't, what I have to share, my satsangs, which are free, right? Unless you join my patron program, um, which is totally a donation. But my classes, which I charge for, and I receive money. If we were living in a different day and time, I'd have to trade them for, I don't know, rice, fruit, vegetables, and the like. If I needed a chair, what was I going to trade for that chair? So money as a symbolic representation is quite a brilliant idea. It's a really great technology, right? The problem isn't money. The problem is the market. The problem is making money the valuation of everything, and a market which makes money without contributing anything, right? If I buy and sell stock and I make a lot of money because the price of the stock goes up, I've made a lot of money, but none of that's gone into the company that's being bought and sold, unless they're shares, right? None of it's going to them. So none of it is going back in to help people. It's all being extracted. And this is the big difference. If you approach business consciously as I'm here to help people, I'm doing what can improve people's life in any way I can, then the appreciation of that comes back in the form of money. Other kinds of appreciation as well, gifts, donations, thank yous, testimonies have changed lives and that sort of thing. But also money, and it has to have money. That's that's why I can afford a camera, right? So I can do this. So so at that point, money now also needs to be reclaimed, right? It isn't a horrible thing. It's innocent. It has no meaning in and of itself. If I think money is the most important thing in the world, I've given it that meaning. If I say I shouldn't have any money because it's not spiritual, well, then I've given it that meaning, because money doesn't have any meaning, right? I mean, if I hand a dollar bill to somebody in France, they'll go, what do I do with this? It's worthless, right? I can give them a stack of a bunch, right? Worthless, right? Obviously, yes, you can do the exchange stuff, but you get my point, right? It has no meaning except within the context that we give it, and our culture has given it a meaning, a way more important meaning than it needs to have. So Christ was right. The love of money is the root of all evil, because it values everything in terms of money. Right? It's not capable of seeing the inherent value of anything. Right? So if you're thinking about a conscious business, it's not a particular business, right? There are not some businesses that are conscious and some that aren't. The business, the function itself. There's a great man, Ray Anderson, who's passed on now, and he had a carpeting. He was making carpet, right? That was his business. He was very well off, and he began to realize how toxic the process of making carpets was, and he became very self-aware of that. So he invested his own money and time to retool the entire thing, experimenting with all sorts of different ways to be able to make carpets without any toxic overhead, right? That the carpets weren't toxic, the process wasn't toxic, he wasn't dumping crap into the environment. Making carpet, one wouldn't think that's a conscious business. Well, it was with Ray Anderson, right? So it doesn't even matter what the business is, right? If it's conscious, that means you are aware of the whole picture. You're aware of the effect you're having. You're aware of the value you're bringing, and it is a constant dance between all of these things. So hopefully that answers it for you, Milo, and helps others as well. Yeah, a little overactive nasal area today. Ah, oh, look at that. Christine. More spam. Christine Miles Wincutt, wise words. Thank you. I'm in the UK, in East Sussex. Sussex, wonderful. Melissa, hello, Melissa. Good to see you. Facebook user, greetings, Greg, from Terry Peterson in Maryland. Oh, Terry. Oh, she calls me Greg. That's because we went to high school together. Very fun. Very fun. So good to have you here, Terry. Robbie, will the men's workshop be available in recorded state, or is it live only like the women's workshop? I guess I should clarify that. The women's workshop with me will be recorded and available, and so will the men's. It is the special event afterwards that is being provided by, in fact, the person right down the road here, Stephanie, who is Steffi, who's one of my students. And helping me move to Germany, is she's doing it, and so she's just following the program as it was done traditionally, and making the most perfect environment for women to be completely safe, completely open, and to really take in what she has to offer. So the workshop with me for both the men and women will be recorded, yeah, for sure, and be available after the fact. So there's that. And there's Steph. Namaskaram, everyone. Happy to be here. Much love from Germany. And she will be the teacher. Those of you who know her, she's amazing. Christina in Slovakia. Hello, Christina. There's Sophia. Sophia Lara Karls. I can't pronounce that. Thank you for your generosity of spirit. Best wishes from Iceland. Ah, have you been here before? I don't seem to remember having anybody here from Iceland, but oh, I love that. I want to visit Iceland. Since I'm going up in that direction, it's very likely I will. Hello, GP, says Karen. I always have problems with charging money for my work, even though it's very valuable. I give too much stuff away for free, even though I really need money. Do you have any advice for me? I even have problems with telling people how much the price for my service is. Yes, and I'm going to do a class on it. Again, this is another thing I hear a lot, and I've shied away from money classes and the like, simply because they usually have the wrong energy about them. But establishing a new relation, reclaiming money and your value, right, within the particular context we're in, is absolutely essential. And in that workshop, which I won't be getting to until January, simply because I'm moving and it's going to be a bit of an upheaval for a bit. I've called it the money body, and it's kind of the energetic flow of money, and it starts by the empowerment that you, as a woman, need to find a self-validating empowerment, right? It's what allows you to say to yourself, without anybody confirming it other than you, what I have to offer is valuable, right? Now, how you value it, right? Still, I'm falling asleep. How it gets evaluated, how that, what you do, if you're helping people lead a better life, if you're alleviating suffering, right? Your value is priceless, right? Because most people don't know how to do that. Any one of the healing arts, but anything has to do with art, anything has to do with literature. Hell, accounting, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's coming from this place of a full-hearted spirit. Now, I suspect you know it's valuable, but you give a lot of stuff away because you're afraid they don't know it's valuable. Well, who's going to decide if it's valuable? Right? You're going to have to, you're going to have to decide that this bottle is worth $100 and this one is worth 10. Right? And at that point, your job is to show them. Now, the hard part is something as valuable as what you do. I suspect you're some kind of a coach or healer or something. is reducing it down to money, right, in the marketplace, which has to do, what will or what can people pay for, right? You'll notice that I keep the cost of my programs low, right? Because I don't want them to get up too high. But in order for me to build a bigger business, to have a bigger reach, to be able to take care of the people that are helping me, I have to do that, right? And then build a network of people, right, that are both teachers and coaches and facilitators to follow along and be able to take up some of the slack, so the entire range is covered. I know what that feels like, and it's simply a matter of how do I value it, right? And even now, I feel like, what has been given to me was given for free. How can I charge it at all? But because I have to keep body and soul together so I can keep giving it. That's what it boils down to. The Zen saying, I've spent my whole life standing by a river selling water, right? This is infinite. This is available to absolutely everyone, but somebody to show you that it's available and help you experience it is invaluable, right? And to this day, if somebody wants to be in one of my classes and they really don't have the money, or they live in some in some country where the exchange rate is horrible, I work it out. I try to find a way. If somebody's sincere enough that they want to be there, I'm open. I'm open to trying to make it happen. So it starts with you recognizing the value of what you do. As you said, I know it's very valuable, right? Now, the next part comes, right? So I was talking about earlier, the experience of women is they get gaslit. So something that doesn't really have any value. Who are you? Come on, you don't have enough degrees, or I don't know, right? Maybe you do, but that actually doesn't even matter. You need the certificate. You need the approval of this one over here, right? All of these things to kind of gaslight it. So it becomes the internal effort is to come to truly value yourself, self-referenced. This has value. If somebody offered this to me, I would see its value, and I would pay handsomely for it. I'd pay up to the point where I could pay for it, right? And so if you can get established there, and it's not easy, it takes some doing, and EFT is a big help with that, because it's a shift of energetic shift in the nervous system that has to take place. It isn't just in your head. Remember, you have been taught since you were a little girl that your worth was at best secondary, right? Depending on when you grow up and where you grow up, it could be even more severe, right? And it is my opinion that this is the age of women, and this kind of power is being reclaimed, and it has to be done individually, just like this. And another thing you can do is to, well, I have a private group on Facebook, just groups/GP Walsh, Facebook/groups/GP Walsh. I might even have a banner here. Do I work with Patreon donate? No, I don't. There are other people who are on the same boat as you, where you can surround yourself with a tribe of people who will also recognize the value, and that helps. Because just trying to do it completely by yourself is not easy. You have to try that, right? Because ultimately it's you that is the one that's going to say, this is valuable and I need to get paid for it. And I do make a difference. And if I don't make a difference in your life, I'll give you your money back, right? Simple as that. And, I can tell you over 15 years, I've never given anybody their money back. I think once. And I think what they actually did is downloaded it and then tell me they didn't like it. Just so they could get their money back. So there's people there. If you get into any of my training courses, I keep all the people are still in contact. We have regular meetings, even without me. All people in the same boat as you, working through the same stuff. Many of them healers and facilitators and coaches in their own right. And you'll get to the point where you'll be able to just say, this is what it's worth. This is what I'm worth. And you can even say, I can't do it for any less than that. I need the money. So I can't. It hurts me. And if I can't do this, I'm going to have to end up going to Whole Foods and selling kale or Starbucks or something. And I think it's more important that I be doing this. So that's a way to approach it. Both the internal work of learning to self-validate it, and we have all been trained rigorously to defer to others, other kinds of authorities. And then secondarily, to surround yourself with a sangha, with a tribe of people who are doing the same thing and recovering that same power and can help you validate, right? Yeah, it's very helpful when others are validating your worth, right? Even though it takes more than that, right? Because oftentimes it can't sink in, but there's things we can do to help it sink in. But it starts showing the whole nervous system different evidence, right? Oh, look, there are people who really appreciate this. There are people that you can test it out with, try it, see what they value of it, give them a free session, and then ask them to write a testimonial, right? So there are ways you can begin to approach this on a very practical level, and then on a very intimate inner level. And it really has to be approached both. So how's that for you, Karen? Beautiful. It's so wonderful me to see that, and once again, it just illustrates to me. When I do classes, when I come up with the idea for class, it's because I'm seeing a lot of stuff coming up in my students, in Satsang, on my radio show, my podcast. I'm seeing a lot of the reason I'm doing these programs for women and men is simply because I've heard from women and men. It's what they want, right? They really want that. They're just, so many women have been abused and disillusioned, and they're and been treated badly by men. They're going, what the hell's going on? And so it was kind of by popular demand, gee, can you please address this? And I feel the need to do the same thing around money, business, interactions, getting your message out there, really experiencing the flow of money. I call it the money body. And it's, I have my value goes out, right? That's what I have to offer. And what comes back is appreciation. Now, that appreciation can take all sorts of forms, but one of the key ones is money. And that's what it represents. It's not a burden. People don't give you that begrudgingly. It's an appreciation. My value, appreciation. And there's a direct correlation. But on the other side, there's the very same thing. There's a value into you that somebody else offers. And then there's the appreciation going out, which can take all sorts of different forms, including money. So my value out, their appreciation in, my appreciation out, their value in. This is the flow. And you want to see that in everything you do. So if there's a kink in a hose, right? It doesn't matter where it connects or where it flows. It stops everywhere, right? So you're even looking at your reluctance to spend money on something that's of value to you, right? Now, that doesn't mean we're foolhardy and just because I like it, I buy it. But we really go, this really does mean something to me. And so it's worth it to me to give money to the one who did that. So there's value and appreciation. There's the cycle. Right? So you can see, you can get pinched in a variety of places. So, yep, it's time for me to do this one again. Thank you, Karen. Peter, wonderful to be here again. Good to have you. Good evening from Italy. Hope you all find souls in this mad but still beautiful world. Fine and safe, this mad and still beautiful world. Merck, yes. Sometimes they think the universe made a mistake with me. But the cat says it's all cool. So don't sweat it with the success stories and illusions. Just got to start trusting the cat instead of mind. I think it was Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, Eckhart Tolle said, I've lived with several Zen masters over my life, all of them cats. Yes. What is success? That's another thing, another term that has to be recaptured. In our culture, we define it as money. So, the three guys, the three guys who took the midlife crisis joyride into space at the cost of literally billions of dollars, are not a success as far as I'm concerned. They're a total failure. A total failure from the get-go. Our culture, though, because it loves money above all else, holds them up as the ideal, right? Right? Because everybody's making money off of them, right? So we're buying, when Amazon makes a lot of money, does he help his employees? No, right? The only people who benefit from it are him, and those at the higher level of the company that have ownership in it, and the stock market, the 1%, right? That's where it all goes, right? And they give nothing back, right? So that's failure. That's utter failure. That's systemic failure. That's a system that simply does not work for humanity, right? So they're held up as the ideals, right, for success, and it's repulsive. It's not success. As I said, spending that money on self-sustaining communities, right, eliminating poverty in a large section of the world, bringing back self-sustaining agriculture and cottage industries to make it self-sustaining, that would be a success. That would be something that we could be proud of. So thank you, Merck. Yes, it's an illusion. Yeah. Singren Marie, I can't pronounce your last name. Men and women will always need each other. Together we are strong. Yes, we will. It's a fact. We will. But we need each other whole, Red and blue make purple. You cannot have purple without blue and red. That means the red has to be fully red, totally red, and the blue has to be totally blue. And the blue can't say, I'm more important. And the red can't be gaslit, right? They have to be absolutely equal and whole and powerful in their own right. And then what they create in between is a flow. All sorts of, be more blue 1 minute, more red the next, right? All the infinite shading, this continuum between those two colors. If we see that the masculine and the feminine represent that, two polar energies, right, that do not and cannot exist independently of one another, but between them create everything, right? Just the acknowledgement of them in their totality. When we do that, we'll restore the balance to the planet. We will. Because that's what's out of balance. So thank you, Singren. That's a wonderful comment. We'll always need each other. Indeed we will. Indeed we will, because we are one. We are two aspects of the same transcendent whole. And the transcendent whole cannot be put into words. It is the great mystery from which everything has emerged. Okay. Jay, next month's retreat baby will be a year old. I will post an update pic on Facebook later. Yay! Jay's second baby boy was born during a retreat. And so all of us at the retreat got to see him right then. It was wonderful. David and I say, amazing, Jay. God, where's the year gone? Isn't that amazing? So fast. He's up on the windowsill right now, exploring the outside world. Sabugo. Hello, Master. My emails are somewhat not getting to you. Okay. Waiting for you here in Europe. Will it be possible to do a satsang with you in person? I hope so. How do I get more info on this since the emails are not working? So send an email to support@gpwalsh.com and let me see if I get it. If not, contact me on Facebook, and we'll work something out. I want to do satsangs in person. It's been my ambition. I started to, and then COVID happened. As soon as it's allowed, as soon as I can travel more, I probably can get away with it in Germany. I've got a lot of students there, and a private thing, it doesn't have the same kind of restrictions. But I'm confident in 22 the restrictions will start coming off, and we'll be able to have a little bit of normalcy again. In which case, I'll be able to start doing live retreats and satsangs once again, which is what I really want to do. Yeah. So. Solfaing. If the seeker is the sought, then there really is nothing to do and nothing to become. Is it simply seeing through the illusion of the person and the unity of everyone and everything? Yeah. It is that simple. Now, you'll find there's enormous amount of resistance to that, simply because we've been so conditioned to think, feel, and act according to the belief in the person. The person is the organizing principle. The sense of self is the organizing principle of the entire human mechanism, body and mind. To recognize that consciousness as being something independent from that, right, is the first step in recognizing that the person is not my identity, it's who I believed myself to be. And because consciousness is so powerful, my believing it literally brought it into existence. It became my perceptions, my experiences, my relationships, my job, everything. I became that person ignorantly. Now, the realization that the seeking energy in me, right, and that's an advanced state, right? The majority of people never recognize that the person isn't who they are. They go through their whole lives assuming that is who they are. And so even the recognition that, whoa, it's not who I am, turns the attention towards the question, well, then who am I? But that first blush of that insight doesn't immediately eradicate all of this. It's got a momentum to it. It's got a power to it, right? And it's formidable, and it's going to keep coming up, right? Which is okay, because that's how we get stronger. You begin to realize that even the energy of seeking, right, is simply the awakening has taken place enough that attention is now off of simply the person and trying to make the person better and self-improvement and all that, and it's on the path of self-discovery. That's a great place to be, and it's the step everybody has to go through. But then you begin to realize that even that seeking energy is being witnessed by something deeper. That even the seeker, while it's a much more rarefied, it's a much more mature, it's a much more nuanced sense of identity or person, it is nonetheless still a person, right? And now we go, oh, okay. I'm even watching the seeking, the activity of mind, body, and emotion engaged in seeking. And then I can look at that and go, well, there's all of this energy of seeking. Is there really a seeker? No, there isn't. The seeker was just assumed and projected on the activity of seeking. Now, all of a sudden you go, okay, well, what is aware of both the projection of a person on the seeking energy and the seeking energy? What's aware of that? And now the illusion is that the seeking energy has someone doing it. It's very subtle. And, you hear a lot of non-dual teachers, there's nobody there, there's nothing to do. And it's true, but it needs to be understood and not just a phrase that you repeat. You have to see that energy of seeking, that energy of activity, is happening, and that the illusion is thinking that there's someone doing that, right? It's just like thinking I am beating my heart, or I am growing my hair, or I am digesting food. Now, in those instances, you know you're not, right? They're just happening. But for some reason, we think when it's something that appears to involve volition and will and acting things out, that there's someone there doing it. The fact is, there isn't. Thinking is just happening. Action is just happening. Decisions are just happening. Emotions, sensations, they're all just happening. There is the person, and it's okay. You can let them happen when you know that there's nobody doing them. Now you can simply sit back into abiding as that which is aware of that, and just letting the question really linger in your heart. Well, then, I'm not that. There is no person. There's an action going on, but it comes and goes, and it all is being witnessed by me. Well, then who am I? Who is it that's witnessing this? And with that question will arise all sorts of the traditional answers that you would get, the habitual answers. Oh, I'm this, and I live here, and I was born here, and that sort of thing. Well, no, all of that's happening. Who am I? Who is it that is aware of it? Right? And even you can take, words like, oh, it's pure awareness, pure consciousness. It's true, but I won't let you answer those questions unless I hear that it's really coming from an understanding of that. You begin to recognize, okay, there is consciousness here that is aware of that. Right. Who am I? Am I something that has consciousness? But then what's aware of that something? Or am I actually just consciousness? Which, now that's not going to have a name. It's not going to have a form. It's not going to have an origin. It's not going to have a destiny. It's not going to be seeking, right? Although it can witness form, it can witness destiny, it can witness seeking, right? But what then am I? Who is this I? I've always believed myself to be this person. Well, then, okay, if I'm not that, who am I? And it's not a better version or a rarefied version of this person. It's a completely different being. And as that deepens, how did you say it? Yes. As that deepens, you'll automatically begin to see the unity of everyone and everything. Because you'll see the entire universe, including this body, and is that flow. And the one witnessing the entire universe is the real you. And that one that is witnessing the real you is the same one that's here. The same one that's every name on this list. That I is the infinite self. And there's only one of them. Call it Shiva being. Call it the Brahma self. Call it Sat Chit Ananda. Call it God. Call it the I am. Call it Buddha nature. It doesn't have a name. It just is. It is what is. I am what is. You are what is. Does that help, Solfaing? Solfaing? Solfaing. Beautiful question. Thank you. Clara. Hello, Clara. I gotta do that. I may have to get some more Kleenex in a second. We're holding up okay, though. Clara, hi, GP. How is it that my nervous system isn't protecting me from things I don't want to happen now? Why is it only recognizing past programming? Thank you so much for your time. Great question. The thing is that early on we get traumatized, and the essential thing it's protecting you from is the exposure of yourself to the world. It's not safe for you to be yourself. So it's busy in the work of keeping you hidden. That's its number one goal, because anytime you come out, it assumes there's going to be some danger. Now, what that means is that it is so stuck in that pattern that it can't rightly identify what's dangerous now. So you'll end up trusting people that you shouldn't trust, doing things you shouldn't do, right? Because the mechanism that would be your internal guidance that would say, not a good idea, is not functioning fully, because all of the energy is being taken up elsewhere. So it's only looking at what's happening now from the perspective of what happened then, right? So it's looking at it in terms of, is this a threat to this? Not is it a threat to another state, right? Where you could say, oh, that is a threat. Oh, and that's an opportunity. From this perspective, you might say that's an opportunity and that's a threat, right? Because the criteria is off, right? It isn't seeing things as they actually are. It's perceiving them through this lens of the traumatized child, right? And so it can't tell, right? And so that's why it happens, right? So the mission then is to free it from that, free it from its main job right now, which is keeping you hidden, right? And the more energy that comes off of that defensive posture, the more becomes available to the creative posture. And in that creative posture comes the wisdom and the perception. It begins to see things as they are. The true wisdom begins to awaken. And you go, that's an opportunity. That's a threat. I'm avoiding that. I'm reaching for that, right? That shiny object is actually valuable, right? This one looks like a shiny object, but it isn't. But now I can tell, because the whole energy system has shifted from being in defensive mode to being in expressive, evolutionary, participatory, collaborative, right? This is the process that I call inner reconciliation. It is getting it out of the defensive standpoint. And it takes a lot of love and compassion and some guidance and coaching to do that, because it's just stuck in the past. It really believes the world still looks the way it did when you were 6 or 3, or or maybe even earlier, right? It's convinced that this is still the right map of reality, and so it's interpreting everything from that point of view, even though consciously we can see that doesn't make any sense. Down here it makes a lot of sense, right? And this is the inner journey. You're going in to reconcile with that energy. You can't force it to let go of the defense. If you try to force it, it digs its heels in, doubles down, because now you're a threat. It's not going to give up the defense because it's dangerous out there. So instead, the approach is, right, you're protecting me. I get it. Thank you. I'm alive because of you. If you didn't, I would have been dead a long time ago. So let's take a look. I know you can protect me, so there's no real danger. Why don't we take a look and see if maybe we don't need it to be this intense anymore? Maybe that danger has actually passed. I mean, if it hasn't, fine. You got to do what you got to do. But if it has, well, can we just open up and take a look? This is a very gentle, compassionate inner dialogue that I call inner reconciliation. And as part of that process, I will use EFT. I use meditation. I've used a few other things as well. I've even grabbed some things from inner child work, and because it's all about reconciling, right? The theme is inner reconciliation, and within that theme, you can pull out. There's all sorts of different tools. I mean, I've got therapists who have studied it. I've got people in all walks of life who have studied this, and it hasn't been contradictory to what they do. It's actually amplified it because it's created a different context. So this is what we're in the business of doing. We are in the business of reconciling with that energy, so our nervous system can see it's safe to be myself. When that happens, all of the energy that was defending against switches sides and begins to express you. Right? It's the same energy, right? It's what the system was designed to do. The whole human system was designed to give expression to you, the formless consciousness. So you, as formless consciousness, could appear in form and function and enjoy and taste the honey, right? But in order to make that happen, it first had to keep you alive. And so it just got stuck there. And we're just going to, little by little, move the needle. It's going to, oh, it's safe. Cool. Right. And it's really like that. It's really very funny. The moment it knows it's safe, it begins to drop the defenses because it doesn't need them. It's not stupid. Right. And you're sitting inside the most adaptive mechanism in the universe. It can adapt to anything. And that's what it did. It adapted to a particular environment where it had to defend you. And as far as it's concerned, it just assumes that environment is still there. That's an energetic assumption. Your job is to show it that that environment isn't there anymore. And it starts by you stopping fighting with it. That's the problem with self-help. You end up fighting it. And instead you go, oh, it's my friend. Let's have a conversation. A complete shift. And you now no longer has to defend itself against you. Boom, immediately those defenses start coming down. You'll feel it in your body. You're just going to go, there's a sense of relief. So, thank you, Clara. Thank you. Very good. Very, very good. Okay, you have to give me a minute here. I'm going to have to grab some more water. And I'm just going to mute here for a second. Yeah. All right, I'm back. You want to hear all those little noises I make? Those noises you make when you got a cold. Anyway, Suzanne. It's Ciara, not Clara. It's Ciara. From this distance, I couldn't see it. Ciara Gavin. Suzanne, hello. Do you have any advice on how I can love myself? It's really hard to accept and value myself. Thanks a lot. And I'm really looking forward to the women's class, especially to the ritual part. It's so necessary and so valuable. I'm so thankful for you guys for making this happen. Thanks again. Oh, you're so welcome. Well, I'll be focusing a lot of that on how to love yourself, but it's like how you value anything. As I was talking to somebody earlier, I don't remember exactly who it was, about valuing your work and asking for money and that sort of thing. We have been devalued our entire lives. You were trained to not love yourself, right? And you were given a self-image that wasn't particularly lovable, right? For whatever reason. You weren't smart enough. You weren't pretty enough. You weren't, You weren't tall enough. You weren't rich enough. You weren't creative enough. You weren't enough. So we set this standard, right? A standard that you don't make, you don't you don't match, right? And so this is lovable. This is not. And we live in a culture that has been embodied in our parents, where love is earned, right? You earn your worth, right? It's not inherent. You're not born with value. The act of being a self-aware human doesn't have any value. It's all the value of the marketplace. I mean, this is the decadence of the Western culture as it has evolved. So how to do it? It's not the kind of thing you do. I love myself, or putting stickers up on the mirror and things like that. What you have to do. Genuine self-love is natural to us. There's no such thing as a child that doesn't love themselves. There's no such thing. But little by little, we're enculturated into various kinds of standards and then we start feeling less than. Right? So we have to get back to that original innocence, that original essence that is totally lovable and knows it. Right? Now, how do you do that? Well, you do that by clearing away everything, right, that keeps telling you you're not lovable. And all of that is conditioning. All of it. There's no truth in it. But just knowing that there isn't any truth in it isn't enough to clear away the conditioning that has been trained to assume you're not lovable and compensate for the fact that you're not lovable. So trying hard to be something that you might not be able to be, trying to acquire things, all the stuff, all the knots and pretzels we twist ourselves into, only to try to make ourselves lovable according to an artificially imposed standard from the outside. If what I'm say to you in that you actually are lovable, but you don't know who you are, who you think you are isn't lovable, because that's who you were forced to become. Who you really are, the truth of you, is infinitely lovable, has infinite value, is the self, the beingness of all, and simultaneously this utterly unique and beautiful form that has appeared, that got the name Suzanne. So it's a process of clearing away all of the assumptions that said I wasn't. And these assumptions are energetic. They're conditioned patterns. They're not these kinds of assumptions. They're not beliefs. Right? They will appear as self-derogatory thoughts or self-sabotage and that sort of stuff, but that's not their origin. And so just trying to change your thinking is actually a waste of time, because you won't get to the essence that is producing those thoughts, right? They rise up, you trim it off, the weed comes up, you trim it off, it just keeps coming, right? You have to pull it out by the roots. And the roots is the fundamental misunderstanding of who you are. Who you are is the divine being. That's why in the class I'm using the archetypes of the goddess and the queen, which are powerful archetypes. And I know the goddess is kind of overused these days, your divine nature and all of that. It's gotten a bit, but I want to deepen it. I want to reclaim it and bring it back to the real meaning that it has, because it isn't an aspiration to shoot for. It is the actual nature of your identity, right? All the gods and goddesses are in us. We project them out there. This great character, she's a goddess. She's got it all together. I don't. But even the projecting of it betrays the fact that it's already here. Otherwise, you couldn't project it and you couldn't see it. So now it becomes a matter of owning it, of claiming that for yourself and recognizing that these fundamental energies within us, the goddess and the queen, and there's others as well, but I'm going to be focusing on those particular archetypes, are inherent. That is your true nature. That's your true birthright. And, like the story of, Sleeping Beauty, right? Who the wicked queen, right? Gave her a special toxin that put her to sleep, right? Put the real her to sleep, put the real you, the goddess, to sleep. And the evil queen represents the shadow, the tyrant, the ego, right? That which is holding to the false version of you. But it's not you. Both of them are there, right? And the evil queen is the one that's telling you how horrible you are, you just can't make it, you're not good enough, right? That's the evil queen, right? But in fact, you're the true heir to the throne. Right? It's the fairy tales, the mythologies, they are just rampant with this theme because that's what they represent. You are the goddess. It's not something you will get to be. It is a realization that you are that. And the queen, which simply represents the authority in human form of the goddess energy. And it's an authority from birth. It is not, notice, it's inherent. The queen is born a queen. She does not earn it. She is not given to her. What she says goes because the authority is invested in her simply because of who she is. That's the real metaphor, the real archetype of the genuine kind of power that I want to awaken in all of you. And it's only been covered up, right? And believe me, you don't need the handsome prince to come and kiss you. That's other stuff. Yeah, that was added later. Yeah, or the seven dwarfs, right? Right. All of these fairy tales and all it's legendary. The prince or the princess who's stolen in the middle of the night and taken away, and they're raised as a peasant, and they have no idea who they really are. But eventually, they're recognized, and it is discovered. This is the path. This is the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, and I'm so glad you're going to be in that class. It will be quite liberating. Wonderful. Let's see. Nazarene. Hello, Nazarene. IGP. Is it natural to fluctuate between love and wisdom until I find a balance between the two? There is no balance. It's a constant flux. One of my favorite quotes from Nisargadatta, and I think this will end any kind of question you have it. He says, to know that you are nothing is wisdom. To know that you are everything is love. Between these two, my life flows. Now, if there appears to be a fluctuation, right, it's only because you're not used to this flow, right? Love naturally just connects, grabs, pulls towards itself. But wisdom says, oh, hold on. That you can pull, this one you can't, right? Keep this one at a distance, right? Right? They're not part of the realm, right? Whereas love just wants to embrace everything, right? And you could see how that's the flow, right? On one hand, I'm absolutely nothing, right? I have no form, I have no name, I have no content, I have no past, I have no future. I just am. But I'm also everything. Every heart is my heart. Every leaf is my leaf. Every tear is my tear. Every laugh is my laugh. Right? That's love. It's the total merging with other until there is no other. It is all myself. That's love. Right? And in the opposite pole, you see, there's nothing exists at all. It is all myself. No thing exists. I'll just kind of leave it at that. Okay. I just got a message from the teacher of the special workshop for you. So everything is on schedule. Very good. Let's see. Oh, I think, by the way, I think it's going to be, we're looking at like Saturday, the Saturday after. So that would be the 13th at about, at the same time, right? It'll be 8 o'clock for her because she's in Germany. and it'll be 11 o'clock here on the Pacific Coast. And she'll be using my Zoom account, but I won't be there. Completely for women only, which is pretty cool. Annette Rockstar. Yes, it is definitely time for us women to come out of our caves. Amen. Very much looking forward to that, and I love the idea of a woman cycle, a women's circle. Wonderful. I hope you'll join the class in that. Remember, early bird discount ends tonight. Red Rose. Hello, Sonia. Someone asked me how to change a root belief. Can I say being aware of it in tapping? Yes, because root beliefs are not head beliefs. They're assumptions in the nervous system. They're a collection of predefined reactive patterns, right? So at that level, it's way deeper than a belief up here. So what has to happen is that which created the assumption was the experience of a certain kind of danger in the environment. The environment was threatening. And so it created sets of behavior, reactive patterns, completely, without you thinking about it. I mean, you didn't participate in it. It just made these reactive patterns. It's like the way when you learn to ride a bike, it was a conscious choice on your part to get on the bike, but it was the nervous system that learned how to do it, not you, right? Sorry, I didn't mute the mic in time. Prior to you even consciously participating in it, the nervous system is constantly just creating behaviors to keep you safe in the environment. Right? So what you need to do is create the safe environment. Show it that there's a safe environment now. That's what tapping does. It communicates safety through touch, so that even if you're in the midst of an intense feeling, if simultaneously you're getting this message that it's safe, it has to reconcile those two messages. It has to, because the environment's different. Prior to that, it was always getting the message, it's dangerous, it's dangerous, it's dangerous, so it knew what to do. But if all of a sudden it's dangerous, wait a minute, something's saying it's safe. That's what opens up the space. That's why this is so effective. That's why I use it so much. So changing a root belief is you don't even have to be aware of what the root belief is, because that's really the mind trying to take control over it. Believe me, what it was something wasn't safe. And to change a root belief, you must create a safe environment within you. You must become totally safe. And that'll do it. You won't even have to, you may not even know what that belief was. Oftentimes you don't. You don't need to. If it needs to tell you, it'll tell you. If it doesn't, fine. Do you care? It's not analysis. Your mind doesn't have to be flattered. Thank you. I don't need you right now, right? If I need you, I'm sure the system can project images into the mind so that I can see them. It's a beautiful, beautiful structure. Anyway, Solfain, beautiful. Thank you, GP. You're welcome. Mary said, great question to Ciara. Thank you for asking. Christine, Miles Wincock, thank you. Amazing on working on. Thank you, so helpful on nervous system and not fighting with it. I do that as a lot of childhood trauma. We all do. We have been trained to do that. We have been trained to do that. Now, you weren't consciously trained to do that. It is the nature of the nervous system itself. It's its nature. It's what it does. It adapts to the environment. If the environment is dangerous, it creates behaviors, reactive patterns that will keep you safe as best it can. Over time, right, those reactive patterns start to become thought patterns, sense of identity, sense of limitation. All of that gets put into place later. Right? In the beginning, it's just a bunch of reactive patterns. What makes a trauma is that it's in the worst kind of danger, right? That is the nervous system has two ways of dealing with danger. Okay? I can run away or I can put on my dukes and fight. That's it. If it cannot do either one of those, right, it is going to die unless it suppresses all of that energy, sticks it away somewhere, and forgets all, disassociates with it. That's what a trauma is. And that's what happened to all of us, because when you're a child, you can't run and you can't fight. Matter of fact, if you run or fight, it will get worse. So all of that then has to go underground, and then layers of behavior get created on top of that to keep the trauma hidden, right? And the existential trauma is, it is not safe to be myself, but I can't help but being myself. Bam. It's a total double bind. You cannot be anything other than you, yet to be you is dangerous. This is where we disconnect from our soul. The nervous system actually creates a false version of you, a complete ruse, right? Takes the name, the shape, all of that. That's where the person comes from. So the ego comes from. That's why it's not real. Meantime, the real you is sitting down here in the basement with the rest of the angels because it's not safe. And so the real you gets disconnected from, it gets disassociated with. It becomes a problem. And we then begin to think, I'm somebody other than who I thought I was. This is where the ego comes from. As it matures and mind comes online and other kinds of internet and the environment change, it becomes the ego or the person. Okay? Yeah. So, yes, I do that as a lot of childhood trauma. Yes, all of it, my friend. Okay? And inner reconciliation is, to me, the only way to rectify it, if I do say so myself. Because you have to show it that it's safe, that the real you can come out of the basement now. How is she going to do it? It's never going to stop trying to keep you safe. It's never going to stop protecting you. It's what it does. That is its entire function. It can't not do that. It's like asking a dog not to wag its tail. It can't help it. It has to. And so the only way you get it to drop out of its defenses and liberate the angels in the basement is to show it that it's safe. And the first way to do that is for you to become safe for it, to listen to it instead of trying to fix it. That's why self-help can be utterly destructive, because it's doing the same thing now that your parents did to you before. And the nervous system is just going, more of this, defenses get stronger. That's why it doesn't work, or the results are merely temporary. Okay, enough of that. Thank you, Christine. Enough of this trauma stuff. Trauma is everything. And that existential trauma created what I call the soul disconnect. And it literally created another version of you to show to the environment to get your needs met. A complete fabrication. That's why who you think you are not. And this dovetails beautifully into non-dual self-inquiry, because it's showing you, no, it's not you. You only thought it was you, right? So we're not improving the false version of you. We're not trying to make a better version of you. We're trying to get to who you have always been. And that is the infinite self. It is unlimited. Thank you, Christine. Mary Sykes, thank you, GP, for clarification on root beliefs. I would love to understand more about them. Well, bear in mind that, as I was just saying to Isabel, the primary root belief arose from the trauma of it not being safe to be yourself. And so when that happens, and I become disconnected from my true nature, which is what the soul is. It's not a thing. It's what you act. It's the reality of you. It's your true being, your true nature. It has to create a front, a ruse, a persona to present to the environment in order to get the needs met. Right? When it does that, it needs a reference point, because this is gone. The real you is gone. It's buried. It's out of sight, right? The nervous system has to look for a center, a reference point. Who am I? Who is this? And in that moment, it decides, I am the body. And at that moment, all the limitations of the body, the destiny of the body, the problems of the body, the fears of the body become my destiny, my fear, right? Because this sense of self has to anchor itself somewhere, because it's completely made up, right? It's got to have a reference point. And the real reference point is not available. It's buried. It's disconnected. It's out there somewhere. So it has to have one, because it is totally fictitious. It grabs onto something. I am the body. And then out of that, the sense of identity and ego develops and develops and develops and develops and develops until it becomes a whole way of being, until something in us begins to go, why do I feel so constricted? Why do I feel like a whale in a swimming pool? Why do I reach for something that I want and I can't get it? We start questioning that. And in the beginning, that questioning is just, I'm going to try to fix myself. Okay, I got these problems, I have to fix it. But if you follow them deeply enough, you'll find that what is there is the limitation is the identification with this fictitious person that was created as a reaction and was never you in the first place. And so it won't matter how much self-help you do on it, how much personal development, how much meditation, how much spiritual practice. You can't make that which isn't you into you. And so instead, all of the attention turned towards, away from who I thought I was, to the path of discovering who I actually am. And that doesn't need self-help. It doesn't need improving. It doesn't need to find its worth or its value. It's inherent. And then you discover the most magnificent thing of all, and that is you are the infinite self. You are the I am. You are the infinite being. You are Shiva being. You are Shiva. You are Brahma. You are Buddha. The most magnificent discovery, where we thought maybe we just discover somebody who is better, we find God. Jay, were you talking about a smaller group like us, that is the change that is happening to the world in your FB post yesterday? Yes, except there's more smaller groups than just us. Excuse me. There are pockets of light emerging all over the place. It's disconnected at this point. And of course, mass media pays no attention to it, right? Because it's contrary to the narrative that is, the cultural narrative at this point. But don't underestimate the power of awakening and the power of a sangha. Just don't do it. I mean, Christ even said, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. He wasn't talking about him personally. He was talking about the power, the truth, right? The interactions of a sangha, which are reinforcing and embracing each other's truth, right, goes out and touches the whole world. Even if you never say a word to anybody, it has its effect. People can feel it. People can just be, they're drawn to it. Right? And so, yes, this group right here is a Sangha. Right? My private Facebook group, that's a Sangha. Right? When I do something on my show, I get other people there. That's a Sangha. The people in the class. It's all part of the Sangha. And yes, there's a lot of you that are in all of them, right? Which is kind of our, Sangha that's solidifying into kind of an ongoing group. But there are these groups all over the place, right? They're happening, right? Some are more mature than others, right? Some are just kind of starting on this path, and they still think somehow there's an improvement of the person that has to take place. But it doesn't matter. The awakening is taking place. Because one wouldn't even consider self-improvement if something hadn't awakened enough to go, wow, I can do better than this. Well, that doesn't come out of the person, right? That doesn't come out of the egoic mind. That comes from someplace inside. A recognition is taking place that an aspiration arises, just a feeling. We all felt it. You wouldn't be here if you didn't, right? Even the desire for an improved life, right, is coming from that place. Even if at the beginning that we think it just means more money or more success or something, eventually it'll mature, right? And the merely mundane will fall away. And the depth of that, the true freedom, and the true freedom is you're free from the person you never were, right? And all the limitations and all the struggles and all the problems that went with this one, who would never, ever be adequate, right? Because it's a reduction from the get-go, and that who I actually am, right? And who I have always been, but I believed myself to be that. And that's where it eventually always leads there. At first, somebody wants to practice the law of attraction or something, they're not going to listen to me, right? I mean, I've had people asking about that here, and they even told me, well, I'm not going to come here. I want you to tell me how to make a lot of money. Okay, well, I'm not going to do that. I can shift your relationship with money, but I'm not going to tell you how to manifest a lot of money. One time, some people asked me, when were the angel readings going to begin? Right now, I don't diminish that, because it's all part of everybody's path is different. I'm just kind of happy because I know where they're headed. I know where they are now, and I know where they're going. Right, and I had a lot of people that have become my students that started out with the law of attraction, were kind of disillusioned with the whole thing. Even feeling it, even though they had manifested some stuff, they were just feeling like it was so selfish. It was all about me. And some of them are long-term students of mine, because it opened up the door to that. So it's happening all over the place. Right? When I was a kid, even as a teenager, I'd never heard the word yoga. Never. Now you can't swing a cat without hitting a yoga studio, right? They're everywhere. I'd never seen a Buddhist, except picture these guys in orange robes in National Geographic in the library. I didn't know any of this stuff, right? I'd never heard of this kind of things. I'd never heard the word enlightenment. Right? Now it's everywhere, right? It's permeating. It's leavening. Right? The serum has been injected, right? It's only a matter of time before it colonizes the whole system, and it's bubbling up, right? It's bubbling up. It looks very tumultuous on the surface, and it is, but what's happening is, think of it as, the body gets a fever, right? And gets all snotty and, awful sounds, stuff kind of pouring out of every pore. It's not pleasant, is it? But what's it doing? It's cleansing the system of the intruder. That's what's happening on a world scale. The intruder is being cleansed, and the intruder is the egoic mind. It's not somebody. It's not some bad guy somewhere, some Illuminati or, some pedophile ring in a pizza parlor. It's not that. It is the egoic mind. And humanity as a whole is being purged of it. And this is the process. I feel like this truth is far out of reach for Bill Gates and the greedy powerhouses out there. Don't underestimate it. I don't know. I don't know. Yes, on the surface, it seems like he's not the lead. He's completely absorbed into this, but you just don't know what it is. We don't know anybody's story. We don't know how sensitive he is to his own suffering, right? We just don't know, because he's in such a position. All of that can be masked. Jack Canfield is a friend of mine, told me the story about somebody he knew who was he was a billionaire, right? Owned sports teams, and it was a success coach for him, and the guy was, what is it that you want? He says, well, just more. He says, I got it all. I mean, first I had this, and I had this, now I have sports teams. He says, I just want more. So Jack says, look, I'm going to go deliver wheelchairs to children in Africa, because they don't have them. They can't afford them. So we've got a lot of people donating wheelchairs to take them over to Africa and give them out to kids primarily, who simply can't afford them but need them. He says, do you want to come with? And the guy says, okay, I'll come with, but we have to take my private jet. I'm not flying commercial. Jack says, okay. He doesn't have a private jet. Nice ride, right? Anyway, they load up these wheelchairs into I don't know how many they got in there, but he loads them up. Over they go, part of the organization. So the man's handing out wheelchairs to these kids. And then one kid in particular, sitting in a wheelchair, he's staring at him. And he's starting to get a bit uncomfortable, right? Because he's just like studying him. And so he asks the translator, he says, what's he doing? She asks. And the boy says, I want to remember what you look like, because I want to thank you again in heaven. This guy's heart just broke wide open. Since then, he's personally delivered 15,000 wheelchairs. You don't know what it's going to take. Yes, they're very indoctrinated into a particular way of thinking. All of their power is invested in that way of thinking. Of course, their way of thinking is self-destructive. It's destructive to the planet. It's egoic. It's self-serving. Right? Something has to break that shell. In the case of this guy, it was just this young kid getting a wheelchair with so much gratitude. He wanted to be able to thank him in heaven. You don't know how it's going to happen, but I know that it is. So, Mary, especially accepted by Source, yes. And that would be my false belief that Source was somewhere outside me. You are Source. It's one of the problems with the whole law of attraction thing and source energy and the vortex. It's as if it's separate from you, and somehow you have to get in touch with it. That's the same model as, the people in Yahweh. He's the God creator. And if I do everything right, or I meditate right, or I obey the law, or I hold a picture 4 times for 17 seconds, then it's going to come to me. It's the same thing. It's the same model. You are the source. The only way that the depth of that can sink in is as we lose the sense of the egoic identity, the person, because that is not the source energy. When I'm identified with the person, the source energy looks like it's over here, right? But that's only because I'm identified with this. This isn't who you are. This is you. And that means you're just peeling away everything you're not. And when you get through everything you're not, what remains? That which cannot be gotten rid of, that which cannot be thrown away. And that's you. Melissa, How can we reconcile that which pierces the heart? Example of the treatment of animals in our world. The use, disregard, and cruelty, feelings of helplessness, sadness, and anger arise. Yes. You're not reconciling with evil, but you have to understand that evil doesn't see itself as evil. To the people who are doing that to the animals, and it isn't just the cruelty to the animals, right? It's cruelty to humans. I mean, they're unhealthy. They're raised on a diet that they were never meant to eat. They're pumped full of chemicals. They're pumped full of hormones. They're pumped full of antibiotics. You realize that the vast majority of the nasty viruses that have arisen have been from animal agriculture, right? Or the animal meat markets like Wuhan, right? It's the source of it. I mean, it is an inhumane, barbaric practice that is beyond just the cruelty to the animals. It's also the worst polluters in the world because it's completely unregulated. I mean, you put this all together, you can see the evil for what it is. Your seeing of it as evil and therefore not participating in it. You don't eat meat, right? Simply don't do it, right? Don't, if you can, don't buy leather shoes or leather jackets or anything whatsoever, right? Completely remove yourself from it, right? And gently, without being an idiot, without being an ass, explain to people why you're doing it and all the impact that it has in all the different areas. So you're not helpless, right? Yes, it's sad. And we need to feel sad, right? Because if we don't, we become cold and we just let it happen, right? It's just a steak in the grocery store. No, it's not. It's a living being, right? And also the anger, right? That anger is necessary. It's righteous anger. Right? Remember, Gandhi was angry, right? He was nonviolent. He was wise, but he was pissed. He wanted the English out of his country, and he did it without firing a shot. They voluntarily left. And it was the beginning of the end for the British Empire, right? Within a matter of a few years, they had collapsed between that and the Suez Canal. So that sadness, yes, we need to feel. It's grief. My God, this is inhuman, right? This should not be happening. And you get angry about it. But now the helplessness. Don't mistake the fact that we don't have a lot of political clout for helplessness, right? Your testimony, you buying with your dollars. I remember when there was no organic food in the grocery store. there was no responsibly farmed meat, right? Now it's everywhere. I don't care. The funkiest grocery stores got the organic, non-GMO. They want the labeling and all of that stuff. This is a huge shift in consciousness. Veganism is growing by leaps and bounds, and it's not a fad. It's a trend because consciousness is awakening. So if you're awake to it, right, and then you're not helpless, right, and that awakeness will find ways, right, both personally in how you act, how you disport yourself with others, and how you answer just reasonably questions. Just you go somewhere and somebody offers you something, say, "Nah, no thank you, I don't eat meat." And that used to get me stares. I mean, I've been a vegetarian for 25, 26 years. And that used to give me, what? You know what? In some restaurants, you get a salad. That's it, right? Because everything else was meat. Well, that's not the case anymore. Right? Now, nobody thinks twice about it. There's all sorts of vegan and vegetarian items on the menu. That's the kind of impact that's happening, right? The meat industry isn't making as much money as it used to. That's why it's lobbying so hard. We just have to tell the story personally, why I don't do it. Notice I didn't tell anybody they shouldn't. I say, this is why I don't, right? I couldn't. Once I understood what was happening and the impact of it, I simply couldn't do it. So you're not helpless by a long shot. We don't have political clout. And of course, everyone wants to say, It has to have political clout. It'd be great if it did have political clout. I'd like to see more and more of these ideas infiltrating, but yet they're very much on the fringe, because the centralization of power is all around the neoliberalism, which doesn't want the government in anything. Permission to do whatever I want, make all the money, exploit whoever I want, and it's good for me. Right? But you are not powerless. Let's see here. Creative. Here's Susanna. Love this story. My question, can you tell me about karma? I guess love is the only way to guide them back. Yeah. Well, karma is the functioning of the unconscious. If I'm not conscious, I think everything is just happening to me. And yet I am putting into motion all sorts of things, all sorts of energy, which is, of course, going to have consequences. Everything you do has a consequence. This is karma, right? It doesn't matter whether you do something good or you do something bad. It has some kind of reaction. This is the wheel of karma, right? And we're unaware of it. We don't turn into this cosmic thing, or it's simply what we're not aware of. The end of karma is the end of unconsciousness. When you become conscious, you are stepping out of karma. Karma does not apply to the true self. It only applies to the false self. And because the false self is a very primal and energy that manifests itself in different forms over time, right? That energy goes from what we call lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, which is just the same pattern that in a particular lifetime we call the ego, is called the repository consciousness, or the vasanas, right? Which gives rise to a form and an ego, right? And that's the underlying energy that literally generates lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So you are disidentifying with the only thing that karma applies to. And this love is infinite impersonal love. It is not personal love. Personal love would be action and reaction, would be more karma. Impersonal love has absolutely no attachment to getting results from what it does. Therefore, it's free of karma. It's even called karma yoga, which is action with no attachment to the results. I do it because it needs to be done. Be great if I got a reward from it, right? Now, this is a difficult thing to do in our culture because we have to survive by exchanging goods and that sort of stuff, right? So it becomes a real art as to how we navigate this territory. But that's where it comes from. David Helene, thank you for sharing. Satsang Ji, wishing you a happy and smooth transition. Thank you. I don't know where I'm going yet. I don't have a place quite yet, but jump, take a step, the bridge will appear. What can you say? Melissa, yes, thank you, GP. Great satsang. Melissa's been a vegetarian for 30 years. Thank you. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Hi from Porto, Portugal this time. Hey, Roberto, my traveling man. Good to see you. Ciara, this is my last question for today, folks. Thank you. My voice is beginning to feel a little strained. How do we know we are communicating effectively with the nervous system? Sometimes I feel it's not budging, and I'm not sure what I can do. I don't want to push it, but I want to move forward also. Thank you. Well, the best thing to do is to let myself or one of the facilitators facilitate you, right? There's some subtle things that people know how to facilitate can do to help bring you more into that space. But what I can say here is this: let go of the idea that you have to do anything and just be present. Right? It's okay to say, I really want to move forward. That's okay, right? And of course, that desire is there, the desire to grow, to expand, to move forward, to increase, all of that, right? And at the same time, there's this part of you that's not budging, right? Right. The reconciliation is with both of these. Now give both equal time. Say, okay, I know you're not budging. You have a reason for it, right? Notice that when you say, I don't want to push it, but I want to move forward, there's a very subtle energy that is trying to get this to somehow let go, right? You don't have to. You say, you're here for a reason. I totally get it. I have no idea what the reason is. If you want to tell me, great. If not, you don't have to. But I also want this, right? So I honor the fact that you have to protect me. And you know what? If there's no way you can protect me and I can move forward, I have to accept that that safety has to come first, because it wouldn't do any good to move forward and die. So clearly, I need you, right? But I do want this. And this isn't going away either. Notice how gentle that was, right? You're not creating any conflict whatsoever. You're asking the system itself to reconcile these two deep needs. So, on that note, I'm going to call it quits. Actually, I have somebody arriving who's going to buy some stuff. I'm selling some more things today. The place is beginning to look pretty empty around me, which is why I'm sitting in the couch and not at where I was sitting before, because the desk and everything has been sold. So anyway, everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for your deep commitment to this kind of work, to this truth. So please like and share. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about the upcoming courses. Word of mouth is the best way to let people know about things that are unfolding. And remember, where's woman? There it is. The early bird rate ends tonight. There's me reconciling between I want to give it all away and I got to keep the lights on. But we all know it has value. Okay? Anyway, everybody, I love you all. Till next time, namaste.